Welcome to It's a Grand Life. Did you know that in the United States alone, 2.4 million kids are being raised by their grandparents or other family members other than mom or dad? 2.4 million. It's a Grand Life is a podcast for those grandparents and kinship caregivers who are committed to making a difference for those kids. Grand families are in every neighborhood, every city, tribe, and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash. We'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And if you remember from last week, and if you didn't hear last week's interview with Suzette Brown from Each One Teach One Together, you need to go back and hear that. And you need to do it with a notepad and a pen, because she gives you some common sense tips on how to deal with the behavioral health issues you're wrestling with your grands or with your kin. You don't want to miss that. But Suzette, thank you so much for coming back on It's a Grand Life. But we talked about a lot of things last time, but we just scratched the surface about the breadth of Each One Teach One Together. I thought it was just an educational organization. It's way more than that. So can you tell our listeners what is the bandwidth about Each One Teach One Together?
Yes, Craig, and thank you for having me again. I appreciate that. Each One Teach One, I look at Each One Teach One as being a ministry.
Okay.
I on my website, I tell the story about Bishop T.D. Jakes, who I love, where he gave the analogy of a young man that wanted to have a mega church like he had. And in speaking with the young man, Bishop said to him, well, let me say, what you need to do is go back and pray over it, and then come back to me in about 3 or 4 months and let me know. And he said, okay. He said, and I want you to bring some ideas back. He said, okay. The young man came back, and 6 months later, he said, I prayed about it. I did everything I knew to do, but nothing has happened. Nothing has moved. And Bishop T.D. Jakes said to him, well, tell me this. If God grants you that mega church, what would be your purpose? What would be your purpose? And the young man sat there and was silent. He said, well, that's why God has not granted to you, because you don't have a purpose. If you have a mega church, you need to get into your community. You need to be able to provide services in the community. You need to become a missionary. And all you're thinking about is the dollar bill. So that's why when I was thinking about Each One Teach One, I am thinking about how can I, because I don't have a lot of funding, but that has nothing to do with me physically or mentally, to go out and speak and to advocate for kin. And that's what I do with mine. It's the art of learning. I would not be the person I am today if I had not taken an extra step to learn. I would not be the person I am today if I didn't take mental health educational classes. I would not be the person I am today if I had to let down my old school parenting styles. I would not be the person I am today if I didn't know where to start or what was the need for kinship, like resources. Just because you have a child, that doesn't mean you know how to navigate the resources. So I'm here and I'm non-judgmental. I don't judge people. You call, you don't know how to navigate the system, we're going to navigate it. And that's what Each One Teach One is all about. A motto of mine comes from Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And with that being said, it starts with us and our kids, the smaller kids, even the teenagers. We have to do everything we can for them so that when they get into adulthood, that they would at least have how can I put it? They will have a model.
Right.
And if they don't have a model, they have people like you and I. They'll have someone to come back and say, Papa, you told me about so-and-so. Can you tell me what direction to go in? And that's what we want to do. So that's what I do. We have support group meetings and all. That's what I thought about when it came to Each One Teacher. And I'm expanding. And I'm 73 and everybody keeps saying, I don't know how you do all that. Well, it's only by the grace of God. I take care of myself. Self-care is important. Got to take care of yourself.
Right.
You run up a lot of energy. You know that, don't you, Craig?
I do.
But we have to take care of ourselves.
So you started with the each one teach one, with the idea, this whole idea is commitment to learning, but now you're expanding the programs. Now you realize that, there's some folks that may need some clothing, or there may be some folks that have some electricity issues that, you can't do a lot when it's hot in Georgia and there's no electricity. So what other things are you now offering, Suzette, out of each one teach one together?
We had our second toy giveaway this past December. And like I was saying before, partnerships are very important. And I have a partnership with the Kinship Navigator Program in Georgia. It was a huge success. I was blessed to get a donation of toys that I never got before. This young lady that donated these toys was someone to just go out and do for a hobby, but she donated to each one teach one. And if you go to my website, you all will be able to see some. I had donations for Santa. So, with all that being said, we expanded to giving Christmas. We were looking forward to this Christmas. We're looking forward to giving out turkeys to the families. I have a partnership with Publix, and I'm just trying to get things that a lot of families need, and I know they need it because I am a kinship parent too.
Right.
And right, I'm a kinship parent too. So with that being said, we're expanding. This is one thing I'm doing next year. I partnered with Computech, and this is something that anyone listening, if you have a nonprofit, you may want to reach out to Computech. They are out of Texas, and they give out free Levino, I think it's called Levino computers in the community. So next year in May, we're going to have a giveaway laptops, and then they're going to come in and teach the kinship families how to use it. Just the simple things, how to cut it on, how to go to the internet and do all of those things, just simple things that they will be able to become independent with.
So you've gone beyond the each one teach one, the learning program. You're advocating for electricity. You've got you're really partnering with major corporations. Publix is huge. Computech coming from Texas to provide the PCs or laptops and do the training. So you're really crossing the digital divide, which separates, the haves from the have-nots, which really levels the playing field. How did you become this queen of partnerships? How did you get into that?
I don't want to keep being so spiritual, but I am spiritual. It was only by the grace of God. It's connections. It's like, this is my passion. This is my passion, is kinship. And my purpose is to do exactly what you and I are doing today. But when I talk, it's in my voice, and everyone say, oh, I have somebody that might be able to help you. Or I know I have a company, and I'll do this and I'll do that. And I build connections. And regardless to what my life is like, I try to stay positive. That's what I talk to my granddaughter about. Stay positive. Don't get upset if someone say no. What you want to do is say thank you. And they'll rethink that, and they may call you back and say, okay, well, I thought it out, and now we might be able to sponsor you. So it's connections. And I'm waiting for Walmart now. And when I went for a walk today, I was praying to say, Lord, let Walmart give us some of those grants that I have applied for, because we could really use the finances. So we're going to see. Hopefully my next testimony will be, guess what? I got some grants.
Well, and
but it's connections.
We've got to do another show about all these grants, because this is just amazing. But the one thing that keeps going through my mind, Suzette, is when we talk about grandkids, and we talk about kinship caregivers and grandfamilies, and we are dealing with the safest space in the country. This is a nonpartisan issue. Everybody loves kids. Everybody loves grandparents. And that's the space you're in. And there, whether you're Republican, a Democrat, whatever, gay, straight, oh no, everybody, I'm amazed when I share what you and I do on a daily basis, when I share it with folks that aren't familiar with this space. Many folks say, wait, I want to get involved. How can I help? My grandma was a huge influence on me. My grandpa was an unbelievable help to me. And there was a gentleman I talked to in Michigan who, in fact, this group out of Oakland County where we are, set up a meeting and didn't know what we did here at It's a Grand Life. And at the end of the meeting, they said, we've got to get you some public relations. We've got to get you some strategic planning. And the gentleman on the call said, I've developed a program for low-income families on how to help them with getting their finances together. I said, we've been dying for something like that. He said, when I heard what you're doing, my grandpa was such an influence in my life. How do I help? So what you're doing, you can really touch the heartstrings with folks that have if they've had one grandparent that's made an impact in their life, they're on board with what we're doing. And I think I got to believe the folks at Walmart and General Motors and Tesla and all these major companies, there's folks in there that have influence that have been touched by grandparents and that would want to come along and support the grand families and kinship caregiving families in Georgia. And I just applaud everything you're doing. This whole idea of, continuing to learn personally as well as professionally, and not only for yourself but also for the kids that you're involved in. We all need to do that. We've got to keep our brain fresh and our cognitive efforts as strong as possible. But so do you have a strategy then, Suzette? Do you identify folks that you think could provide resources like the folks at Walmart or the folks at Publix that could really benefit your families before you target them? Or do you just say, Lord, who should I contact?
I pray about it, but let me tell you who's one of my biggest marketers. It's my husband. My husband, he worked at the YMCA part-time, and he met this young lady that was giving out toys. She ended up being our Christmas toy donor. Amazing. Because she said, your husband talks about your nonprofit. He talks about you all, what you do in the community. And I was just so impressed. Another thing was he goes to Walmart. That's how I met the manager at Walmart, because he got the manager. So I have a husband that is my huge advocate, that is not afraid to go out there and talk about everything. And he also tells me, which I am so grateful for, is how proud he is of me and all of that. And sometimes I ask him a question about, should I do this and do that? Now, that doesn't say I agree with him all the time, but what I will do is I will listen, and then I'll say, well, that sounds great. But he's one of the biggest people that advocates for me. And then word of mouth is another one. I have small nonprofits that I partner with, and they tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody, and it's kind of like a domino effect. So telling stories, you brought up an excellent point. We have to tell our story. I'm going to be on an event next month where I'm going to tell my story. And when people hear your story, they become passionate and they believe, and they look and say, wow. Now, one thing I didn't tell you at the very beginning is I love your nonprofit. It's a grand life on your podcast. I love that. It's a grand life. I love that. And words matter. Words matter. So when Craig and I can go and we can advocate and we can tell our story, and then through hardship, we can still smile. That makes a world of a difference. That makes a world of a difference.
And what I've found, and I'm sure you can testify to this, is that when we share our story, it cuts across race, color, creed. It's just, I'm telling you, this gentleman on this call, I'd never met him before, and he was about ready to jump through the Zoom. He was so excited. And he said, I'm an African-American male, and my grandpa made such an impact in my life. If I could help other folks have that, what could I do? And so that's the beautiful thing about the grand families and the kinship caregiver support that you and I are so committed to. We can talk about it and not worry about offending anybody. Because if all we're talking about is loving kids And it reminds me of that verse in the book of James. I think it's James 1:29. Pure religion is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. It's if we are helping grandmas, orphans, the widow piece, unfortunately, and we're helping, the orphans. These kids are even if it's just temporary, they are estranged from their birth parents, and we can step in and be a support piece and provide all these things, the clothing, the electricity, the food bank, and the toys, and just even if we're stepping in for a couple years, we can make a huge difference in the life of these young people that had really no part in seeing their family blown up. And I just love the work you're doing, and love your story, and can't wait to see when we get together again. Can't wait to see where you are with Walmart, and I'm going to just pity those poor GM folks or whoever the next target is.
I know, right?
Because you've got a track record, Suzette, of doing good and sowing good seeds, and that just builds momentum. And who wouldn't want to partner with Each One Teach One together in Georgia? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? I mean,
yeah. Well, I just like I say, I don't want, religion is not everybody's focus, but it's my spirituality. And there have been things that in my nonprofit that my pastor preached about Gideon and what God told Gideon to go get 300 warriors to fight the battle for 30,000. And Gideon kept coming back saying, 300? How am I going to win a battle with 300 warriors and there are 30,000 out there? The short end to that is that when I looked at my husband in church and I said to him, I'm trying to get out of this food bank, and God keeps sending me people that call and say, I got food for you. I got good food for you. And I'm like Gideon, oh no. And then all of this. And then when I called to let the young lady know that I wasn't going to be a part of the food bank anymore, she said, we need one more nonprofit. Call us back July 1st. And you don't have to fill out any more paperwork. And I was like, Craig, oh my goodness. And I told my husband, I said, if we just stay focused, stay purpose-driven, and we do the things that we're asked to do, not because we want to do it, right, things will work out. And we have to collaborate with others like you and I and other people from other organizations from every state. We have to have that partnership, and we have to be a part. I am so blessed to be a part of Generations United. I've always wanted to be a part of it. And there are such great people like you that are doing great work that really keep me motivated. And that's where it all comes from, is staying motivated to go out and do the work, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
We really need, this is our community, Generations United. This, because folks, whether you're talking to Bob Rubel in Texas, or in California, or Keith Lohorn down in Alabama, or the Suzette Brown in Georgia, or Gail Engel in Colorado, we're all in the same boat. We're all paddling the same way, and we're all committed to helping kids and grand families. And so tell me just a little bit, how did you get involved with Generations United, and how have they supported you?
Well, I have known about Generations United for years, and I love the information that they put out. I subscribe to the newsletter. I love their stats. I've always had it on my website that they break it down per state, and I've always been a part. Then all of a sudden, I got this email that talked about Grand Voice and say, would you like to apply? And you had to have this criteria. And I was like, why not? I'll apply, and it started. I've learned patience too, because after about a month, I was like, I wonder when I'm going to hear from them, and all of this. And finally, Miss Robin sent me an email saying and I jumped up, and first of all, I thank God, and I went and ran and told my husband, told my granddaughter. I said, I cannot believe this. I'm a grand voice. I can't believe it. And it's just what they put out there. If we would read and we would take heed to some of the advocacy, and it's huge too. I'm realizing how huge advocacy is with Generations United. Right, it is huge.
Yeah,
It's huge. And they're sitting in the right headquarters in Washington, D.C.
They're right at the power seat. There's no doubt about it. And the data that we get from them is amazing. And whenever they have the Zoom calls for us, the training is absolutely so worthwhile. And they've got one subject matter expert after the next, and I find it so helpful. But the folks that they have in the field, I think the Grand Voice idea is so brilliant, because we're out here doing the work anyway. They don't have to pay us. We're out here just, we're advocating for these kinship families and whatnot. But you get us together, and that's what I'm hoping this podcast will do: get us all on the same page, and just become a force for grand families and kinship caregivers. And and Jaya is absolutely brilliant. Just love the work that she does, and Chelsea puts her stats together, and it's so helpful. But the connection and the support. This is our community. This, for lack of a better term, this is our Sunday school class, and we get together once a quarter,
right.
and it's powerful, and when
it's very powerful.
And when one person gets a good idea, we can all take that, and there, it's again that whole partnership motif that you talked about. We're partners across the country with trying to make a difference for grand kids and grand families, and it's so good. So I know I want to just touch on, before I let you go, and I know you've seen bullying firsthand at your work at Each One Teach One. And how have you dealt with that? And how do you try and address those issues, maybe at the school level or at the community level? Because it's what I've found is, once someone knows that your child doesn't have a mom or a dad, the kids can really tee off on them. And has that been your experience, Suzette?
Yes, that has been. And that's one thing, that's where the power of learning is so important, is teaching grand families, my families, how to advocate. And you don't have to be angered in order to advocate. What you want to do is empower yourself with knowledge. And that did happen to me. And I had to take because and dealing with some of the people that are employed at the school, they have a good heart, but they may not also be educated on mental health. So what I had to do was realize that. And I'm not trying to tell them how to run their job, but what I'm saying to them is this: my granddaughter may be good in the class, you say her grades are good, but when she comes to you and says, I don't want to hear that, she comes home and bring all of that frustrations home with her, and then she may self-harm, or she may start eating the inside of the sheetrock again, or taking all her emotions out. So, that's called invisible mental health. That's where kids act one way, one place, but what they may, the repercussions from that may generate some other cause and effect.
Right.
So I told them about that, and they were like, oh yeah, I've heard of invisible mental health. Well, let's start acting like we know what it is, and know that Joya is very smart. But when Joya comes to you and say, I'm being bullied, let's respect that. Now, she was bullied over social media. They opened up very quickly to address that, but then it got stuck. I ended up having to call the school board member in my region. She helped me to get things done a little faster. And also, I'm working with them to start some type of mental health training, and they need that. Every school needs teachers that can take the basic knowledge of mental health to be able to understand that every behavior is not a choice. It could be a disorder. And they need to understand that. Bring in the parents. I said to them, if you have any challenge, call me, I'll be there. Now, some parents may not come, but we're trying to teach our grand families is that when your children are misbehaving or the school is saying something, you have to take off from work to go. and find out what the cause is. If you don't understand, call me, and each one teach one together. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. And you
And
do have a right at IEPs to have someone there with you to support you.
and I like the fact that you had when your child reports it, your child meets with the teacher or the principal or what have you, they report it, and then this whole idea that every behavior is not a choice, that there's a need for mental health training. And we do not want to see the awful behavior that can come from the depression or the feeling inadequate, and what have you. We had a situation where I was talking at the bus stop with some of the parents, and one of them said what I thought was out of concern. Have you seen your daughter? And when was the last time your daughter saw her daughter? And I said, well, it's been about 2 years. And then the mom turned around, and somehow the child, her son, heard that it had been 2 years since our granddaughter had seen her mother. And next thing you know, in school, the boy turned to our granddaughter and said, well, your mom must be dead because, you haven't seen her in 2 years. And that was just traumatic for her. And then I don't really know if the school was trained in how to address that. And in fact, I tried to have a subject matter expert on our show here who specializes in empowering kids when they're bullied, but that has not worked out yet with the principal. But you've said something really powerful, that is, have the child report it directly, and then then you jump in, right, to support when you can, and you do that for your families.
Exactly. And I'm her number one advocate. And I taught my granddaughter that if anything happened, you please don't try to keep it to yourself. Bring it and let me know. And it's my approach to the school system as to how I get the results that I need to get. You can't go up, cursing and throwing things around. Education is very important. And just like when I went up and I explained to them what was going on, they were open to it. And I didn't make them feel like that they didn't know anything. I just let them know what was going on with my granddaughter. And you brought up a great point, because my granddaughter was bullied through social media.
Right.
And this had to have been someone that was in her middle school that knew that she was self-harming. But she got to the point she felt comfortable about showing her arm and the scars from it. But the young man said on there, on the social media, and use the school's logo, okay? Use the school's logo. And went up on another name. But he said, oh, why don't Joya just go ahead and kill herself? She keeps threatening to kill herself. Why don't she just go ahead and kill herself? So when all that happened and I sent it to the school, it was like they first act like they could not go to Instagram. And I don't know why they couldn't find it, but you should be concerned that some kid or whomever is using your logo.
100%.
Logo. Yeah. So, that's why I reached out to the person that was the school representative. She's the board member. Okay. And she helped me. And I haven't followed up yet to see if they've, but nothing else. She had 2, and that was it. And then after that, they told me that they had notified the police department. So I think the message got out there. But most of all, I was concerned about my granddaughter. She handled it outside very well, but I wanted to make sure emotionally she did. So in therapy, she did address it with a therapist. And that's what we...
Yeah, that's just so important. And I like that the school eventually got involved and tried to clean that mess up, and you haven't heard anything about that. But the underlying theme of our 2 times together here, Suzette, is that you need to keep learning, and you need to keep educating not only yourself, but the folks you're working with. You don't have to come across as being right. You don't have to make people feel bad, but they need to know that especially if someone's self-harming, there's a reason for that. And let's come together as partners, not as adversaries, and see if we can't solve a problem. But I just want to thank you for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life. I hope you will come on in the next couple months and share with us what new things are going on at Each One Teach One Together. And Suzette Brown, it has been just a pleasure to chat with you today. I think we could do another couple hours if we had the time to go through all that's going on in Georgia. But You've been a total blessing, and I love your approach and your desire to keep learning, and even when we're getting long in the tooth, as the world would say. But you are just on top of it, and thank you so much for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life.
Well, thank you for having me. And I want to thank anyone that's listening that's a grand family. I want to thank you all for all the work that you do. Don't forget that we all need help sometime. Reach out to your local grand organizations. And Craig, thank you for all the work that you and your wife do. And we are all in this together. So I thank you. And I just want to say blessings to all. Blessings.
Well, we will receive those blessings, and we are, as you can, hopefully our audience can tell, this is a partnership now with Suzette. Everything that's going on in Georgia, we are behind you 150%. Can't wait to hear the good news that continues to come out of Georgia regarding Each One, Teach One Together, and we are on the same page, and we are trying to move the ball down the field to help grand families and kinship caregivers get the support that they need, because we're doing the work. We're saving the government millions of dollars, and we're making a difference in the lives of kids, and that's what counts. And until we get right, exactly. So we will see you again very soon, Suzette Brown from Each One Teach One Together. But thanks again for being our guest, and thank you at home for joining us for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.